my image back on the main part, Prashant?
Yes, Bhante.
Oh, you're already live streaming? Okay.
Okay, we lost you.
The message is being generated that the meeting is now streaming on YouTube.
Back on the main part, Prashant?
Bhante,
Oh, you're already live streaming?
no, it's basically understood, yes. But it's okay, we can hear you. Okay, we lost you.
Prashant, can you hear me?
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, friends, we'll go ahead and start by reciting the Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who like to join in that. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. So welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening sutta study, or the revisiting of the suttas. I hope that most of you are able to re-listen to the recording that I had done previously on the mindfulness of the body, or have reread the mindfulness of the body sutta, the number 119 in Majjhima Nikaya. Now, the mindfulness of the body sutta is actually kind of a repetition of the first foundation of mindfulness. So you all know the four foundations of mindfulness. Start with mindfulness of the body, then goes on to the mindfulness of feelings, and then the mindfulness of the mind, mental states, and then the mindfulness of various categories of the subtler dhammas, including the mindfulness of the five aggregates, six senses, seven factors of enlightenment, and in the end, actually, the Four Noble Truths. So, mindfulness of the body is considered to be the starting point for really the practice of developing understanding and insight, and to developing the right view, as well as developing concentration. And I'm just going to give a summary of the sutta, because I encourage you to reread or re-listen to the previous talk. And I hope you all got the links that I sent out before, and then to ask some questions based on any of the aspects of mindfulness of the body. So first of all, I'm going to give a brief summary of those teachings of mindfulness of the body. And a few people have sent in questions already, and then I'll be reading those questions. And then if any other questions come up while you are hearing this introduction or based on your reading, then you can write those in the chat box that hopefully we'll have time to get to by the end. Okay? So there's three main points or purposes of practicing the mindfulness of the body generally. And the first one is to gain concentration and centeredness in the body. And really the purpose of that is for bringing the mind to be grounded or centered in the present moment. Because as I said on many other occasions, the body is our only real connection to what we call present moment awareness. So when you're focusing on the body, feeling the body, remembering the body in different ways, then at least generally your mind is being focused in the present moment, especially when you're developing the mindfulness of breathing, the mindfulness of postures, mindfulness of the body sensations, and so on, that all of those are occurring in the present moment. That means the mind is not lost in thoughts about the past or the future, or not distracted by the hindrances. So the first main purpose of the mindfulness of the body is to gain concentration and to become grounded in the present moment. And then the second main purpose is to develop a realistic approach to the body and to gain a kind of a detachment to the body, seeing the body as simply a vehicle for this mind to operate through. And we've taken birth in this body to work out our karma, so to speak, according to Dhamma. And basically this body is a vehicle for the mind to experience the world. So that we can actually contemplate the Dhamma and free our mind from its intricate web of karmic connections. So to gain that sort of detachment for the body, and also to be able to then use that for the platform for developing insight into the mind, into anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And then the third aspect of that, which comes at the end of this sutta, are the benefits that are acquired through practicing mindfulness of the body. So those three main points, using the body to gain concentration and to get the mind grounded, centered in the present moment, and even for attaining the four jhanas. And then using that to develop insight and gain the stages of enlightenment, and then gaining the benefits. So the first section of the mindfulness of the body, the Buddha talked about the posture. and finding a suitable place to meditate and keeping the back straight, the spinal column straight, because that's where we all the vibrations of the world and coming through our senses are traveling through our nervous system and the spinal cord up to the brain, where we have cognition and where we have our consciousness. We become aware of the world, and so the spinal column is very important for developing meditation, keeping the back straight in order to overcome sleepiness and other unnecessary problems. So anyway, mindfulness of the breathing is that first section. Once you sit in a straight posture, the Buddha says, then begin mindfully breathing in and out. And when that is developed to the higher stages, that one acquires the four jhanas, the first jhana or even up to the fourth jhana, using that mindfulness of the breathing. And again, that weakens the hindrances. And then the body itself, that brings the mind to the body. See, normally our mind is just floating out there in mental space. That means, most of the time for most people, they're lost in their thoughts or their mind is in the future. Oh, what do I have to do now? They're racing to the future, running around or getting frustrated and getting caught up in all kinds of thoughts and emotions. But generally speaking, they're not really feeling the body very much because they're lost in their thoughts or lost in the future-oriented thinking or worrying. So the gaining the concentration is bringing, when you focus on the breathing, either feeling the air going in and out of the nose or feeling the expanding and contracting of the abdomen, rib cage, or chest, then now you're bringing the mind to the body. You find the body, what I call the external body, right? So you feel the air touching the nostrils as it's going in and out, or you feel the clothing rubbing on the skin as the chest expands and contracts, or the abdomen, stomach, or chest. You feel the sensations of the clothing or other aspects of the breathing. So at least you find the external body. That's stage one. Bringing the mind from the external world, worrying about the birds chirping outside or the noise, other noises, or any number of distractions. So you find the external body here and now. And then you're aware of the postures, and you know when the body is sitting, you know when it's standing, laying down, or walking. Those are the four postures. And that brings the mind more to the present moment. And as your mind is focused on the body more and more, you naturally start to feel the sensations in the body. And then the Buddha has us practice mindful movements whenever you're walking anywhere, bending, stretching, turning your head, lifting your arm up and down. Any bodily action, eating, even going to the toilet, it's doing that with full attention, actually knowing what you're doing. That means feeling the sensations of those movements and anything else connected with those movements of the body. And basically that means the mind that's in the present moment. And it's really grounded and centered in the body. And so those practices, the four postures and the full awareness of the various body movements called mindfulness and clear comprehension, these are additional practices to get the mind more grounded in the present moment, which is also a state of concentration. And then having, found the external body, you start getting under the skin. Or the next section is contemplating the 32 body parts. In this body, there's hair on the head, skin, nails, teeth, and all the various organs. And you kind of contemplate how they're impermanent, they're always changing, how we get attached to them, how we get worried about them, how they also cause us a lot of frustration and pain. So it's a kind of realistic contemplation. It involves a certain degree of kind of thinking about contemplating, but from that state of a concentrated awareness. And so that gets you more under the skin, so to speak. You actually start to feel the finer sensations of all these different body parts and so on as you're contemplating them. And also gaining some detachment, knowing that this body, that's the nature of the body, to get sick, to grow old, and eventually die. So anyway, the 32 body parts, thinking about all, but especially understanding how they're all impermanent. They all play a very useful role, but they're also subject to a lot of suffering. And we spent a lot of time, trying to, impress people with the body and other kinds of attachments. So, as I mentioned, that's one of the points of the meditation, is to cultivate this sort of detached viewpoint of the body, and just seeing it as a utilitarian object, and that we're just a temporary occupying this body, but it's eventually going to die. And then the 4 elements gets you deeper into the body, and this kind of gets the mind tuned to the cellular vibrations of the body, really feeling the fine, how the body is just made up of billions of cells and molecules and atoms that are all vibrating, producing these sensations of solidness, fluidity, heat, and motion. Because we all know that atoms are the building block of all physical matter. And its body is just billions and billions or trillions of atoms that are compressed into molecules, and molecules are pressed into cells, and then many millions of cells produce a fingernail or a drop of blood or a piece of skin or anything else. So this is the way we try to contemplate that. The 4 elements is just another way of understanding the body as just compressed energy. At least that's the way that I like to try to, have people contemplate it. And then going into the contemplation of, the cemetery contemplations, how the nature of this body, as soon as the breath stops going in and out, or the heart stops beating, or a combination of those, this body will start to decay. And over a period of time, all these visible aspects of the body, the flesh, bones, and they'll all just basically disintegrate and become nothing. At the end, if you cremate the body, it just becomes ashes. And if you take them out and throw them up in the air, the wind blows them away. There's not one speck of the body left. And so these are realistic contemplations. But again, it helps to get a more detached and realistic perspective to the body, which, people identify that as being myself. So anyway, just quickly, those different contemplations on those different sections of the body constitute, while you're doing that, you're gaining deeper and deeper levels of concentration. And then you're also getting in touch with the various sensations and feelings that are going through the body too. And that's when then you can start contemplating the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th foundations of mindfulness. But this particular sutta is dealing with the body and using it again to get grounded and centered in the body, to attain jhanic levels of concentration, and to examine the body to gain that realistic viewpoint of its impermanence, and seeing it as just a utilitarian machine, you could say. but very necessary. And we need this body to practice Dhamma, but not to use the body for, becoming Mr. Universe or Mrs. Universe or any number of things, to impress others and so on, which is, so ingrained in these societies, and they cause a lot of suffering. And people might not have the perfect body, so they feel a little inferior, they feel depressed, and they try to struggle to make the perfect body, but then they can't, and then more problems arise. So many infinite problems arise through this non-understanding and of the truth and nature of the body. So, having said that much, and hoping that most of you have read the sutta, I'd like to now open it up to more questions. And if anybody can write, or I'll answer some of these questions that have been written down. And then while we're doing that, if any other questions come into your mind, those of you who are watching on the Zoom program, you can write them in the chat box. So now if you have read the sutta, then you might have, one person reading the sutta, being quite attentive. He saw the one section of the sutta which says, when a person has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, then this person becomes capable of realizing anything that can be realized by insight, to which they extend the mind. And then, so this person is asking, what is an example of the anything that can be realized by insight? And in what way can one extend the mind? So, the anything that can be realized through insight, of course, are the Four Noble Truths and the stages of enlightenment, but also by attaining the jhanas, because one of the effects of practicing mindfulness of the body is to acquire the four jhanas. And with the fourth jhana, one can develop the supernormal powers, or the abhinyas. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll just basically, the various supernormal powers that you may have heard about in the Buddhist teaching about being able to reproduce, make a mind-made body, and walk through walls, levitate, and various things like that you might have heard about. And developing the divine ear and the divine eye, which mean the ability to hear sounds that normally the ordinary human couldn't hear. Like, let's say, even dogs and cats have a more acute hearing than human beings. So a person who develops a divine ear would have even better hearing than a cat or a dog, or, could even hear sounds from the Deva realms and celestial sounds. And the divine eye, I'm not going to go through all of these, you can read about them. To read minds, to remember past lives, and eventually the destructions of the taints, which means the attainment of the four paths and fruits of enlightenment. So these are those anythings, that's sort of the anything and everything that would be possible to realize through insight. Now, it's not just dry insight, it means insight that is coming from having the four jhanas. So a lot of people, they misunderstand that. They think you can just develop insight without acquiring the jhanas. But if you really read the suttas, you can reach some level of insights, but it won't be acquiring these type of extra powers. Okay. So that's sort of the answer to that one question. And then this next question says, how does a layperson meditate on a body and slowly but surely get less attached to the memories of the past? Because that's what also in the sutta, if you were evidently this person also noticed that the benefits of gaining mindfulness of the body, you're not obsessed by the various thoughts of the past and the future as people normally are. And that's because the mind is grounded in the present moment. So when the mind is more in the present moment, it's not thinking of the past and the future. That is one of the definitions of being in the present moment, means you're not thinking of the past and the future. So it's not necessarily meditating on all those different categories of the body, like the 32 body parts or the 4 elements and so on, but that also can help that. But it's gaining that kind of concentration and the general centeredness in the present moment, in which you get less and less. It says attached to the memories in the past. It doesn't mean you're going to forget and lose your memory of the past and the future. No, it means being attached to the memories, going back to the past and say, oh, I want to get it again, and oh, if I only was 30 years younger, all these things, or worrying about the future. So it doesn't mean we forget about the past and the future. It means we're not attached to the memories or the ideas of the past and the future, and spend so much time obsessing about them or trying to manipulate or change them in different ways. So it's the using the mindfulness of the body to gain that kind of concentration and present moment awareness that actually gets us less attached to the memories of the past. And then this next question, which kind of this is a little bit more interesting question, but a lot of people maybe have issues with this. Which kind of a diet should I follow in order to lose weight? How can I use mindful eating, mindfulness of the body, to lose weight? And of course, there's so many diets that are out there, in the world, and people have tried so many different food diets. But the diet that the Buddha would probably recommend is the diet of dieting your mind to the obsession with the external world. Consuming not only food, but consuming food could be a byproduct of just consuming our thoughts, consuming our worries, and or consuming other material sensual pleasures of the world, or just being lost in the thoughts of the past and the future. We're consuming those by thinking about them, and that causes unnecessary agitations and other things that may help people to take it out on food, and because of their nervousness or anxiety, eating is a way people kind of help to satisfy some of those anxieties. But on a more practical level, actually, I would recommend following what is called the 6x18 diet. That means, or restrictive diet, or what is called nowadays the popular term intermittent fasting. So this is a training and where you train yourself just to restrict your intake of food to a 6-hour period, normally between the morning time and noon, let's say from 6 a.m. to noon. And you eat, once or twice during that time. And then you give your body a rest for 18 hours and let it recuperate. And so that the digestion system doesn't have to kick in when you're snacking at different times, or if you're eating in the evening, the body's constantly having to, go through all these processes that also, cause wear and tear on the body. So that this intermittent fasting now, or called restrictive dieting, is becoming popular, and are talking about it even on these talk shows and other things like that. And so I think that would be actually more helpful than just going on some of these other diets. But of course, I'm not a dietitian in that sense. But but I would recommend that going on that, trying to practice that restrictive dieting. You're not eating so much. But the mindfulness of the eating also, to train yourself to eat slower. And the slower you eat, the more satisfied you will feel by eating less food. So let's say if you normally eat quickly and eat in 15 minutes, there's a scientific thing that it takes 20 minutes for the signals in the stomach to reach the brain saying, I've had enough, or I've eaten. So if people eat a lot of food really quickly and, kind of swallowing pieces whole and stuff, then those signals don't reach the brain, and they've eaten too much. But instead, by practicing mindfulness of the eating, as I teach during retreats and so on, by chewing each mouthful of food a minimum of about 35 times, that's movements of your jaws up and down, doing it slowly, chewing about the speed that you see cows chewing the cud out in the pasture, or chewing grass, about that speed. Most people chew as fast like squirrels do. You see the squirrels out in your front yard, chewing grass and nuts, right? So chew instead like a cow. And it's more relaxing and helps you stay more in the present moment. And so it takes you a lot longer to eat the meal. And if you go over 20 minutes, then those signals are reaching your brain saying, hey, I've eaten enough now. And so you'll feel more satisfied. So this is you could say a kind of a scientific process, but most, even dietitians, don't probably teach people to just eat slowly, eat more relaxed. And this restrictive dieting. So if you can combine those two, I think that would be one of the more effective ways of losing weight. Okay, so now those are the questions that were sent to me. Let's see, looks like there might have been some questions come up on the chat box. So let's take a look at those. Let's go up to the first chat question here. Well, that question is not about mindfulness of the body necessarily. Let's go back down to one other one that was connected with that. So when I practice mindfulness of the body, I am more aware of the five senses. Is that better to turn off the five senses and concentrate on the breath, the postures, and elements, as outlined in the Mindfulness of the Body Sutta? Well, it's going to be, until you attain the jhanas, you're not going to turn off the five senses. So that's one thing. And but as you develop more concentration on the breath, postures, and elements, you're not being distracted by what is coming through the senses. So it doesn't they don't really matter, because the mind is not going out towards sounds, or it's learning how to endure pains and other body sensations. So you're not turning off the senses in that sense. But you become aware of the senses because you're more grounded in the body, and all those vibrations are coming through the body. But because of the concentration as well, you're not being distracted by them. So they're coming and going in the background. And if you need to pay attention to them, you could, but otherwise you keep your attention doing either focusing on the breathing, or once you've gained that initial concentration on the breathing, even if you don't attain the first jhana right away, you don't need to really, because you can attain it as you go on practicing on being mindful of the postures and the elements, following the sutta. So it's true that you become aware of the senses, because that becomes a very important part of developing the contemplation of Dhamma. As I mentioned before, mindfulness of the body is not to be meant just to be practiced by itself, but it's the starting point. But not everybody will attain the four jhanas, at least not right away or for a long, long time. You might gain a good degree of concentration and awareness, which will allow you to be more and more focused in the present moment. And then as you go on developing the attention to the sensations and developing insights, the hindrances will be weakened more and more, and you will gain those jhanic levels of concentration. So we're not trying to turn off the senses. We're developing that attention to the body where the mind is not going out and being distracted by the senses. That's the main thing. And this other question is mindfulness of the body to be practiced during our daily activities, or better when we meditate? No, the daily activities are the four postures. So when you're standing, is it rocket science to know that you're standing? Yeah? Is it rocket science to know that you're walking? So we do that all the day, right? We stand, we walk, we sit, and we lay down. So that is during the day. And when we're bending, stretching, the mindfulness of clear comprehension, that means whatever you're doing throughout the day, you simply try to remember what you're doing. You're bending, stretching, turning your head this way, turning your head that way, looking up, looking down, going to the bathroom. You know that you're going to the bathroom, right? Just know it. That means let go of your thoughts. It simply means letting go of the thoughts that are keeping you lost in the past and the future and all the worries about it. And yes, we have to do that during the day, because that's where we spend so much of our time, right? In the activities during in the day. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily contemplating the 32 body parts, but the 4 postures especially. And then when you do sitting meditation or later, or in the morning and evening, that's when you can then go into a more focused kind of focusing on the 4 elements, for example, or contemplating the 32 body parts, but especially the postures and the clear comprehension. That is something that we have to do during the day also. So there's times to do it when you're meditating, and there's also opportunities to do it during the day as well. So somebody watching the video that I recorded last year or 2 years ago, I believe you said there's a way to stream entry that does not include reaching the jhanas, that had to do with the Satipatthana Sutta. Yes, but if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, that section on Dhammanupassana does mention attaining the jhanas in the 7 factors of enlightenment. So as you're practicing the Vedanusati, Chittanusati, and the Dhammanusati, contemplating, all along you're gaining deeper and deeper levels of concentration. And you're developing the enlightenment factors as well. And the 6th factor of enlightenment is concentration, which means at least the first jhana, but all 4 of them, perhaps all 4 of them. So a lot of people saying you don't attain jhanas when practicing Satipatthana. That's not true. Read the sutta, but you have to go on and practice, go to the end of it, right? Go to the part of cultivating the factors of enlightenment. And that is achieved through practicing all of the other things. The preliminaries, what we call the preliminaries. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind. And you're letting go of all those things while you're doing that. So you're gaining a deeper and deeper level of concentration while you're practicing the mindfulness. And that's what is one part that people don't understand. But it's very clearly, if one carefully reads the sutta, it's all there. But people like to jump around and, they say, well, I'm practicing this, I'm practicing that. It's a very systematic development that the Buddha lined out in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So that's what I meant when there's a way to stream entry, but it does include the jhanas, but you have to read the fine lines and understand that the concentration that it talks about in the 6th factor of enlightenment is attaining the jhanas. And it's attained through practicing all of the previous things. It doesn't mean you have to separate yourself and go somewhere and practice for 1 year staring at an orange disc, or just practicing mindfulness of breathing or something like that. One can do that, but it's not the way that the Buddha is explaining it in the Satipatthana Sutta. Although that first part, mindfulness of breathing, if one could reach the state of jhanas even before going into the mindfulness of the body, the other parts, but one doesn't necessarily have to do that. Not everyone is going to be able to do that right off. Otherwise, you'll spend 10 years trying to perfect mindfulness of breathing before going into contemplating mindfulness of the body, and that's not necessary either. So I would suggest, going back and reading, I've covered the Satipatthana Sutta, in those previous videos as well, not only the mindfulness of the body, but all the other sections of the we spent many weeks going through the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. So try to go back through that list of the videos and find that section where I was going through especially the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. We spent 5 or 6 weeks going through that. Isn't that right, Prashant?
Yes.
Okay. So just look for the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And the insight knowledge is also. So the Satipatthana Sutta and the section on insight knowledges are the ways. But again, this idea that it doesn't include jhanas is it does include the jhanas, but you gain the jhanas while doing it, if you do it in the right way. So one can attain the jhanas first and then do that, but most people will spend the whole lifetime attaining the jhanas and maybe not do it, or at least a long time. Or you can practice the mindfulness, gain some concentration, not to the extent of jhana maybe, but then start practicing mindfulness of the body. And while you're doing that, you gain the concentration, as I mentioned, and then especially when you get to that last stages, the factors of enlightenment, you're gaining those jhanas, and then enlightenment comes right after that. So these two approaches are called samatha pubangama vipassana or vipassana pubangama samadhi. So some people, if they have the right right previous conditions, and they're able to practice and attain the jhanas fairly easily, then fine and dandy, do that. But don't get lost in the bliss and just want to stay there all the time. You have to come out of that, and then you have to start practicing using that to practice the mindfulness, the foundations of mindfulness. Or others who may have difficulty attaining those jhanas easily, they can attain at least some concentration, like access concentration, momentary concentration, and then start practicing the mindfulness and insights, and then gain the jhana at the end, as I just mentioned. So those are basically the two different paths that most people will probably take in the practice of developing both these what's called samatha and vipassana. Actually, there's too much emphasis on these words samadhi, and the proper word was jhana. The proper word is samatha. So that means tranquility. When you practice concentration, you gain tranquility. The word concentration is kind of misconstrued. It's tranquility. It means all the hindrances in the mind have been subsided, and the mind is resting in the present moment. That is tranquility. You don't even need to call it this or that kind of jhana. You'll know it when it occurs. And because the mind becomes very clear, and things become very clear that are going through the mind. And that's when you can effectively and very quickly make progress in developing the vipassana insights. Let's see. Looks like Prashant has put up his Mahasatipatthana discourse. I guess is that the one that I was talking about, Prashant?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're interested, take down that copy that link to this Mahasatipatthana discourse. There's several discourses connecting with that, and then hopefully some of your questions or confusion about that might get resolved.
If you're a homeowner in Maryland and you're still paying for electricity, then you could be missing out on free government assistance to go solar.
Prashant, what's happened here? Sorry about that.
Okay, good question. So, like,
I've
when
lost
guide
the
us,
program here.
when guide us in the meditation practice, like you mentioned, like breathing in,
I'm
sitting.
not on Zoom now. Something happened here.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bhante.
Well, I lost the video. I don't know.
Actually, we are seeing your video.
You're seeing my video?
Yes, Bhante.
How come I'm
You
not?
are still on Zoom. You're on Zoom.
Yeah, but my screen is blank.
Is it when the power is on?
Yeah, it says launch Zoom, but it's not launching.
That's good, Bhante. You can see you clearly.
That's funny. That's strange. Okay, well. So, but you'll have to read me if there's any other questions. You'll have to read them to me. But I think this might be enough now because we want to, be able to have our little yoga session and meditation too. So, was there any other questions that you see there, Prashant?
No, we don't.
Okay. Okay, so let's take a little break. And just let me know if you're still, because I have nothing on my computer screen except it says log in with Google, but I have no picture, nothing. I don't know how to do it. Okay, so well now here it is. Here it is. Wait a minute. Okay, there it is. Okay, now I'm back. I don't know. Sorry about that confusion. Okay, let's take a few minutes break and come back for the yoga. Prashant, can you hear me?
Yes,
Prashant,
yes,
can you hear me?
yes, Bhante. We can hear you.
Appearances, like stand straight. Relax your arms at the sides.
Bhante, you have to turn it on. Wireless mic. Is it on, Bhante? Wireless mic is on.
Just feel your feet pressing the floor. Relax your shoulders. Begin some deep, slow breathing. Allow the air from the lower lung up to the top of the lung, the chest, the expansion in the upper chest. Hold the air in 2 or 3 seconds and slowly let out the breath. Feel the last bit of air going out of the lung. Coordinate these movements with that same deep, slow breathing. The next in breath, raise your arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, stretch upward. The out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. In breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Feel the sensation. Out breath at the top of the head. Third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more. Release the fingers and the arms back to the sides on the out breath. Relax. Close the eyes and feel the increased body sensation, especially in your hands and fingers. And mentally feel the outline of standing body, standing, mindfulness of the posture. Standing, know that you're standing. Right now, you're practicing mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the posture, mindfulness of the breathing. Breathing in, standing. Breathing out, standing. Right there, if you can do that, you're practicing both mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of posture at the same time. Not rocket science. And on the next in breath, push up on the toes, raise the arms over the head. In this way, face the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, hands to the floor. Use the breath to help lift up the body. In breath. Stretch. Practicing this exercise is actually a practicing mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of posture, mindfulness of sensation, all this same kind of all those vibrations of the body, elemental vibration. Your element, the weight of the body pressing the floor, clothing touching the skin, standing, all those things basically states what you say. Concentrate. Next we'll do the side bending on the in-breath, we'll go down up over the head. Fingers in the arms straight. The out breath, bend over the right side as far as you can. Arms parallel to each other. In breath, and the other side, out breath. In breath, into the right, out breath. In breath. It's more to be said. The out breath over the arms. Feel the feet pressing the floor. Standing. Your posture. Sensation generated by the exercise. Elemental vibration. Present moment of awareness. And letting go of the thought. Mindfulness of the body. You now spread the legs apart about 3 feet, twisting from side to side, moving the arms out to the side. Breathe in. The out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body and go to the other side. Out. Go to the remaining side, breathing, twisting, now that you're twisting. Coming back, know that you're coming back. The other side. The arms out. The sensation in each foot pressing the floor, your belly. Your vibration, your tingling sensation in the hand, cellular vibration. Now we do the forward and backward bending, so keeping the legs apart, wider the better. The hands touch the front of the legs. Breathe in. In the out breath, bend forward, let the hands slide down to your knees. The first time, keep your head up, looking out straight ahead. Try to flatten the spine, legs straight, and stretch in the back of the leg. Deep breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. Let the head go back and the out breath, gently bend backward. Keep the eyes open and not too long. Deep breath, carefully lift up. And then out breath, forward. The hands come below the knees. Keep the head up, flatten the spine. Neck straight. Deep breath. Back bend, and back a little more. Careful. Deep breath. Third time, let the hands come down toward the floor. And hold on to your legs or feet as far down as you can reach. Hold it a little longer. Feel the stretch in the muscles in the back of the leg. All the sensations basically like elemental vibration. Leg breath. Once more, the back bend. Up, down. In the out breath, relax the whole body, vibrating, pulsating, and activating that force. More elemental vibration. Breathe, bring your feet back together. This is one last exercise, the head turning from right to left. Stand straight. In the in-breath, turn your head to the right. And look over your right shoulder. And the out-breath, turn 90 degrees back to the left. And look over the left shoulder. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae, in-breath back to the right. And stiff neck. Out-breath left. In-breath right. Out-breath left. In-breath, stop in the center. The eyes closed, and mentally feel outline, expanding body, with the eyes of the subject. Behind the eye, general outline of the body or the vibration, clothing, touching the outer skin, the pulsation by the skin, the sensation. Subtle activated life or the breathing there, the postures there, the sensations are there. Practice all those different parts of the body simultaneously. That's helping to keep the mind present in the moment. You want to feel the mind stay present in the moment. Centered in the body. Going to the grasp of each movement. And so doing yoga actually is a great way for meditation. One of the best practices for mindfulness of the body. It activates all the different aspects of the mindfulness of the body, breathing, posture, sensation. Concentration. Okay. We'll go ahead and mindfully come back to the seat. Prashant. Prashant,
Yes, hear me? We can hear you.
could you hear me during the yoga?
Slightly,
I forgot to turn the mic on.
but we were able to hear you.
It was difficult?
Not loud enough. It was okay.
Friends, so start to sit straight. Try to align the spine and the back of the head in a straight line. Just gently close the eyes. Just bring the attention down to feel where the buttocks press the seat. Just feel that solid vibration, the earth vibration of buttocks pressing the seat. It's called the earth vibration, the earth element. And mentally feel the way your legs are bent underneath and feel the feet. Feel the sensations of the socks touching the skin of the feet. Feel your toes. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the shoulders or arms or chest. Those are also just the earth element vibration. And feel the head balanced on top of the neck. And keep the chin lifted up level to the floor. Feel some sensations on your face. Feel where the lips touch together. If you can notice the tongue inside the mouth. The tongue may touch your teeth. Subtle sensation. Now feel the eyes and the socket, and the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. Try to feel a subtle eye movement. Relax the eye. You might see some color or light, some pattern, or even a mental image. From that point behind the eyes, let the awareness kind of open up to feel the outline of the whole body, the outline of the sitting posture. Just feel the head on top, the arms and hands at the sides, buttocks and feet underneath. Just that general sense of the sitting body. And just remember sitting, sitting, present moment of the body, the posture. Okay, now begin some deep, slow breathing again, like we did during the yoga session. And feel that dynamic expanding and contracting of the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 seconds. Feel that pause and feel the contracting sensations of the out breath. And feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take several more deep, slow breaths like that, developing this basic mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. If you can, just continue some deeper breathing, deep, slow breathing to help stay concentrated. And with the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. Feel that pause. The contracting out breath, also count 1. Next expanding in breath, 2. Contracting out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. You continue to feel it. The attention focused in the middle of the body. Feel the subtler, shorter, expanding and contracting sensation. Just a normal breath. And just know when the breath is coming in, and know when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling. Try to feel those subtle sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, your chest that expands or contracts. Try to feel like a scientist sitting in the laboratory looking down through a microscope. This body is the laboratory for the meditator. The microscope is a concentrated awareness, focusing down to feel the movements of the breathing process, sensations of breathing. Or if you're used to feeling the air going through the nostrils, you can also focus on that. You can use these brief mental notes to help stay concentrated. Just breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. In these brief pauses between the breaths, feel and remember the body is sitting. Usually the mind wanders during those pauses between the breaths. Just feel the sitting body. Just breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Where you're practicing both mindfulness of breathing and the posture at the same time. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Just turn up the power of the mental microscope to notice subtler details, sensations of the breathing process. Try to feel the 4 phases of each breath cycle. Expanding in breath and the brief pause. Contracting out breath and the brief pause. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. This breathing body is the natural connection, the present moment awareness. The breathing body is that connection to the present moment. Letting go of memories of the past, thoughts of the future. Just remembering that much. It's not much to remember. Just breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Especially with each out breath, just relaxing the body and mind more and more to the present moment. Just feeling more of those subtle vibrations. Even while you're feeling the body in the background, you can notice other body sensations, the clothing touching the skin, other sensations. It's like tuning a radio dial to a certain frequency. Just tuning the attention to that frequency, breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Just let your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just keeping the sensations of the breathing body in the front of the awareness. Even while feeling the sitting, breathing body, the sensation of breathing is the air element vibration. Sensations of clothing touching the skin, or the hands touching the earth element vibration. You might feel saliva in the mouth, water vibration. If you feel any bodily warmth, it's the heat element vibration. All of that is happening while you're breathing and sitting. It's not rocket science. It's bringing the mind more and more into the present moment. If you get yourself lost in thoughts, just recognize it as thinking, or lost. Take a deep breath, bring the mind back into the body, back to sitting, out, sitting, breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Try to notice more and subtler sensation in this breathing body. Can't really separate them. Breathing is intimately connected the body. Providing that life force, keeping the cells alive. The oxygen. And all those sensations you might be feeling in the body, those four elemental sensations, vibration, or also just vibrations of all those 32 different body parts, sensations of the skin, hair, teeth, blood, all the internal organs. You're undergoing that process of impermanence. Cells are continually being dying off and new ones being born. Growth and decay. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Posture, the sensation. Mindfulness centered in the body. The more sensations you can notice, the less chance for your mind to get lost in your thoughts or to go to sleep. And you overcome the hindrances. Mindfulness becomes very bright and clear. Mind attains tranquility, resting in the present moment. All those breathing body sensations. Very pleasant feeling. If you could maintain that long enough, you easily reach the first jhanic level of concentration. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Sounds come and go. Pleasure or pain come and go. Perceptions, thoughts, emotions come and go. Thoughts of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just the continuous flow and flux of the world of body and mind, the flow of impermanence coming and going through this present moment awareness, the space of present moment awareness. This breathing body is that lifeline, the life preserver, the present moment. We lose that connection to the present moment awareness, the breathing body, and the mind gets easily distracted, pulled this way and that way by the senses, lost in thoughts, worries, anxiety, fear. Just beneath all of that changing sensations or mental chaos is a parallel dimension of the now, parallel dimension of the present moment awareness. It's grounded in the breathing body. And it's always there, deep within the body. If we know how to tune into it. It's the purpose of mindfulness of the body. One of the main benefits of practicing mindfulness of the body. The body in the body. dukkha bhayapatta cha nibbaya sokapatta cha nisokha hontu sabbe pipaninu. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. So in the meditation, if you'd like to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times, slowly do the chanting on a long out breath, try to feel those vibrations in the body, the mind. Take a deep breath. Sadhu. Now place your hands at the edge of your knees. Take one more deep, slow breath. As you breathe in, stretch your head back, pull against the hands on the knees to arch your spine. Lift the head up, and on the out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the head up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So I hope you were able to get a little bit centered in the body, maybe get some idea about the breathing body, some awareness of that present moment process of sitting and breathing. Now, actually, I want to, at the beginning of our questions and answers session, there was a question that wasn't related to mindfulness of breathing, but I wanted to see if it's still in there. It was about the war, and anyway, the Buddha also, there's a famous story in Buddha's life where some of his relatives in different these clans of people were fighting over the water in a river, just like people are doing today some places. And they were about to kill each other over wanting to control this river to get the water. And then the Buddha came and stand in the middle between them and said, "You're getting ready to kill each other over just the water." And he talked some sense to them and made it show them their foolishness of spilling all this blood over water where they can find a way to shed it. And so of course that was the power of the Buddha, helped a little bit in doing that. But still, even with this current situation with the war going on over in Europe, although it's a long ways from the US, but people are still feeling that pain at the gas pumps and other places. And there's, not a whole lot we can do to stop the war, except for, maybe, there's different things people might be doing to help. But ultimately, it's, it manifests as the greed, hatred, and delusion. And, but anyway, we can send out metta and try to not to let our minds get too much, carried away in emotions about it. And so the meditation practice helps, hopefully, or not to get dragged into arguments and pros and cons, but we may not be able to do too much about it, but it's just, if you want to drive your car, then don't complain about the gas, realizing, okay, this is a part of it, and people shouldn't, or so people are complaining about the cost of things going up. Well, that's the cost of a peace in some cases. So people should just learn how to to endure it. And enduring things is part of the practice of the Dhamma. Enduring unpleasant things, and this is a good example of that. And if things are impermanent, okay, things may be this way for a time, but at a certain point it'll probably change again, and that's the nature of life. So it's not surprising that these kind of situations are happening. People say, how can this happen in the modern world? Well, it's greed, hatred, and delusion. And look at the time of the Buddha. 2,500 years ago, people were killing each other over the water. So now they're killing each other over oil or other things. So not a whole lot has changed. Anyway, hope you're practice this mindfulness. The great thing about mindfulness is the body is because you have it with you all the time. You can practice during the day. Practice those M&Ms. The pauses every hour for 1 minute. Come back to the body. Come back to the present moment. Oh yes, breathing in, standing, breathing out, standing, letting go of whatever your mind may have been caught up into, and so on, and touch base with that present moment. That's why mindfulness of the body is one of the best types of meditation, because you can do it anytime. The we're carrying it around with us all the time. And all we have to do is just pause for a second and pay our attention there, and it all comes back. So anyway, I would, advise you, or, to try to do that is a great practice, mindfulness of the body, because we always have it with us. And we can always pause for a moment and just take a few deep breaths and bring our mind back to the present moment. Okay, so friends, have a good week, and I'll send out the link to the next subject that we will be doing next Wednesday. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. This is Marcia. Thank you, Bhante.
You're quite welcome. Thank all of you for tuning in.
Thank you, Bhante.
Everyone have a good night.
Yes. Okay. Good night. Love you all. Bye.
Love everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good
Don't
night.
forget to breathe.
Okay.
Okay.
Mindfully.
Namo
Yes.
Buddhaya.
Thank you. Bye.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Wonderful.